Yesterday we formed a really beautiful buying channel right here. Now don't get all too excited yet. We have a catalyst event, possible one, 8:30 a.m. jobs report. We'll see how that goes later. But apart from this buying channel and this 30-minute trendline chart, you have to be reminded that we are still in an overall selling channel here in the past 4 days at least. I charted that out in the 30-minute chart here. If you pay attention right here, we are still in a very beautiful selling channel, if you can see from here. So there are a few very important points we want to pay attention to, particularly these two levels here. Maybe here once we coincide with orange as well. Later in the day, this is about midday, so we want to pay attention to these levels here, especially these selling channels. Now we are coming across a very important resistance level that I mentioned yesterday, which was this level here, right? So although we had seemingly a very strong push, well, we literally only just covered the gap from the day before. So this is the reason why, although we seemed like having a very strong buying channel, we are still technically within that selling channel that we see here, right? So be careful when you see large pushes like that. You still need to pay attention to all the resistance levels here. Now this particular resistance here, it's very important because this level here took 2 days, right, to break through, with multiple head and shoulder patterns that we saw here within this selling channel that we also saw the day before, right? So this will be some very strong resistance that we may require a catalyst event to push us through. So maybe the jobs report, maybe that possibility here. Now in the event that this resistance does not break through and we are capped right here, now this candle is very dangerous candle. Why? Because this was literally a final 10 minutes push. Now does it carry weight? We will see later in the catalyst event, but otherwise it provides a very strong opportunity for this to completely engulf. Now that's a possibility here, right? And thereafter we may form a head and shoulder pattern right here, because this right here, very strong support that we may need some time to push it below. So this candle can be quite dangerous. Just be careful of that in market open, especially when we are encountering the top end of the selling channel and a very strong resistance here, and with this very, I would say, unconvincing push only in the final 10 minutes. So that may not be what the market is wanting. So if this happens, then we could have an engulfing here, and pay attention if we do form a head and shoulder, because this yellow will become a very strong support level that we may need to flag before it will push us back down. So if I take a look at a cleaner chart right here, you will see that there's a possibility that we will form a head and shoulder pattern to break through this particular line here, which I've indicated as yellow. So pay attention to that yellow line here, 5-minute chart yellow here, right here. So there's a possibility we may need to push it back down. But when it goes down, it's much easier, especially we push us through orange, and then we will have another round of possible head and shoulder pattern again to push us down below 390 if the bears want us to bring us down. Now in that case, this will form a selling channel as well in the midst of it, so you have to pay attention to the microstructure along the way to head down. Now this resistance hold, especially if it's a Friday and we start chopping, now we may even form an inverse cup as well, so we want to pay attention to certain structures if this resistance hold. If not, right, very typically we have a buying channel up, resistance holds, and the buyers will lose strength in an imbalance and pushes us down with a head and shoulder as well as a selling channel. So let's pay attention to this, especially if this resistance holds. Otherwise, I would think if the resistance holds, this may be quite an easy way down to engulf this candle back again, right? So that's a possible setup we have to pay attention to. Now, alternatively, if we do push us up through Now we may need some strength to push through this level here. Now we'll see if this buying channel forms and to push us through this resistance here. Now in the event this resistance provides too much, there's also a possibility that we will push back down, but form with this strong support here, right? And we will push up again. So you see that's a bearish and a bullish structure all in one at the same place. So this is quite tricky, especially when we come to the middle of nowhere in a Friday where we will expect some chop and maybe some low volume here. So we'll pay attention very carefully, right? If we do form a selling channel, but with a very strong support level, this is the support level we want to pay attention to. And that's this yellow level here. So today, pay attention, 393 yellow. We want to pay attention also to 398 orange, as well as this yellow 396 where our resistance is right now currently here, as well as this will be quite important. So in the event we follow this selling channel, but we meet with some support and the head and shoulder does not push us down, and this is why you need to take trades near the top and protect it first before you allow it to chop if it wants to head us down. If not, the selling channel holds, right, including the support level, we may get pushed up again, because that's the only way we can retest this resistance without a catalyst. Now in the event we do push up, right, you notice we will start basing up on yellow. So this yellow is actually quite important. You have to pay attention to this level here, that we're paying attention to this yellow level here. Now if this yellow forms a support, we may see some flagging at the support level here, because what the buyers will need is to push us up to the next target at about 400 here, right? So they will probably need some work to push up within a possible buying channel. So that's also the first thing you have to look out for: this buying channel, the selling channel, this support level, this resistance level, right? And you're literally in the middle of the chop here on a Friday. So you have to be very careful for today. So the macro structure, it's also possible that we will break through, right, and form another inverse head and shoulder to push us through. And in the event that happens, right, there must be some form of buying channel that breaks through the selling channel. And so you can see from here, this selling channel breaks right here, especially with base of yellow, and then we base of orange, continue the buying channel. Then you will know once we break through this selling channel, we possibly can go even higher up. So that is a consideration for next week. So today you will start to see a possibility where we break through a selling channel. So in order to do that, once again, bulls may need to form some sort of flagging. So it's very realistic that we will start to have some form of resistance here, especially this was a very strong support previously, right? Even for the bulls, they need to push a little bit and get resisted here, drain of sellers, form a possible bull flag, right? Even for the bears, they need to push us back down here, right? Whether it's an engulfing candle thereafter forming head and shoulder to push us down back into the structure and forming another selling channel. So we want to pay attention to that as well, right? So whether bulls or bears, possibility of getting resisted here, very strong, right? So there is a very high possibility here. Now in that case, you have to see what happens at 8:30 a.m. for the jobs report. So we want to pay attention to that. Otherwise, pay attention to the possible buying channel, right? The resistance as well, possible pushes down the support level once again, right? And also the two selling channels here. Now, this is the macro selling channel on the dailies, right? So I showed you here on the daily chart, this is the macro selling channel that's right here. So in order for us to push out of this, right, we probably need to form a bull flag here to push us out of this. And then we will possibly have some sort of structure in order to retest this 405. So we shall see for next week what the possibility setups from there. But otherwise today, because of all these resistance, support, selling channel, buying channel, right, I think there is a strong possibility of some chop here today, especially if it's a Friday. But because there's a catalyst event at 8:30, we may be brought out of this quite easily as well. So we shall pay attention to that later. But otherwise, quite straightforward, I think. I think the structure presented itself quite well, especially when we found some sort of support yesterday. And as I mentioned, in any macro structures, you want to be looking out for supports. Because once you have supports like that, look, 390, we talked about that as well, right? If we had that, we could form some sort of structure. Right, push back up here, it's possible, right? Inverse head and shoulder. It's very possible because the bulls need to test certain resistance levels, and that's the possible trading range ahead, especially before we come to 13 or 21st of September CPI report and FOMC, right? So the market has to be in position by then, and in position means we must at least reach some sort of support or resistance to find some equilibrium. So this is a possible setup as well. But at the meantime as well, you noticed that we also have this structure here, right? So you have to pay attention, especially we are also forming an inverse cup, right? And we form a handle at some resistance here, we may push down as well. So this range here, 405, is also possible structure we want to pay attention to. So in this case, when you see a structure like that, right, you see a possible neckline, you know your targets, a possible target 420, 405 as well. Now if you have a head and shoulder pattern here as well with a possible neckline now at 390, it's also possible that we form that resistance here around 415, or inverse cup and handle. Now we have the support at 390, right? We possibly form another handle here at about 405. So you see everything required that support level. So this is also quite important that we want to pay attention to. Right, so today we shall see how this goes. So from this we are able to gather more context on how the market wants to find certain equilibrium and to be in position for the two catalyst events later on. But don't forget, we are still in an overall selling channel and we are meeting with some very strong resistance. So that's something I want to pay attention to as well. So early candles, I want to be paying attention. It's possible we engulf back, and in that case, then you will know what to do, right? Otherwise, if we do not, then we may form some support here. It's possible that the bulls may need to base before we start retesting this very strong resistance level again in order to push us out. Now it's a Friday, trade safely. It's going to be quite choppy, so don't overtrade on Friday, and always make sure that you be patient for your setups. Right, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you closer to opening bell. Thank you very much.